going on, people? Welcome to another episode of the Mandem Read. Today, we're going to be reviewing the book CutShort by Ciaran Thapar. Hope I said that right.
Yeah, man.
Okay, cool. And we've got one of the guys in the book, actually. I don't say like a star, plays a starring role in the book. Is that correct? Dimitri there. Nice to meet you guys. How you guys doing?
Alright, Storm.
Doing good, thank you for having us.
Well, thank you for making the journey down. And obviously, I've got my co-host East on the side. What's going on, bro? So yeah, let's just get straight into it. So what's going on, guys? Where you lot coming from? Obviously, I asked this before camera did, but I just feel like let's just guys made a journey from South London.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
So,
cool.
Drove from South West London, picked Dimitri up in Elephant and Castle, up here to Wood Green.
My journey's calm, right?
Yeah, it was alright. We were a bit late.
I was
Traffic is a bit stressful, but
I was like fuming on the way here, yeah. So I'm like driving. You know when you're like running a bit like tight for time, and all the red lights are like every single light I go to is turning red. Old people on driving in front of me, like Ubers are moving mad. I'm just like, yo, this is nuts. But yeah, now thank you guys for coming. Cool. So yeah, let's get straight into it then. Should we just jump into talking about the book?
I want to know that, yeah. So let's go.
Oh, please.
Like, you see, how did like you two's relationship build up during that whole time in working as a youth worker?
well, yeah.
Like, how did that start and build up? I know it's in the book, but hearing it from you,
Sure.
how did that build up?
Sure, so do you want me to talk and introduce the book first before anyone, or just go straight into it? Yeah? So the book's a story about my youth work across 5 years in South London, between Brixton, Elephant and Castle. And that includes my work in schools and youth clubs. And I met Dimitri because I was running a mentoring program in his school. And I encouraged him to apply, and then he got on it, and then that's how we started working together. The program was for highly academic students in schools where there's high levels of poverty. And so I was placed in various different schools, including his one, Elephant and Castle. That's how we met. And
You met him in his
excelled.
school?
Yeah, exactly. So that's how we met when he was in year 10.
Right, okay. And then you just kind of kept consistent, okay.
I think it was more so called, like, originally the thing that he was doing like, in my school, I wasn't going to apply to it. And then when he presented it, like, he came up to me and was like, I really think you should apply right here. Cool. I've applied now. I had to do an interview, innit? So then, gone to the interview, wrote something in like my application that I found interesting, innit? And then we just spoke about what I wrote. From like the conversation that we had in it, so yeah, I think like that conversation it made me rate him in it. So when he said stuff to me, I'll take it more than like other people that come into the school.
Okay. I felt like from then that's when you started connecting and you was listening to him a bit more.
Yeah.
Okay. And being a youth work, you're a social activist as well.
Yeah, do various things, but it kind of all started with youth work and education work. But
So what's your approach when you speak to like youth?
my approach, humility, I guess, is the central approach, like being humble.
Okay.
I love learning, and I feel like youth work and educate, like, although I might have been mentoring Dimitri, he was teaching me and other young people I've worked with, including Carl and Jamar, and who are other characters in the book. I've learned just as much from them as I've imparted. So it's humility. Like I was learning every day. I'm still learning every day.
Yeah.
Bringing that to every interaction.
So let's call that reverse mentoring, isn't it? When I did that at work one time.
You get mentored by a mentee.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it's kind of like that's a very cool process where you're both like learning from, both angles, I guess. So can I ask, like, obviously, tell us both about yourselves as well, like, your early like life, how you guys got to this point as well. I feel like he's asked that question, but like, how did you even get into the stage where you wanted to be a youth worker?
Sure. So I grew up like southwest suburbs of London.
Okay.
Southwest.
Yeah, I went to school in Kingston.
Okay, big difference. Kingston's a nice area still. Yeah.
So I went to school in Kingston, and then went to uni, then started my masters when I came back to London. I did a couple of years of working, travelled a bit, but I wasn't sure on like what I wanted to do in my career. I did my masters in political philosophy. That's kind of how the book starts, and that was to have a year of like just thinking and figuring out what I wanted to do in terms of. I knew I wanted to go into something with social impact, but I didn't know what. And I started mentoring a boy at a time called Jamar, one of the other characters.
Yeah.
And that experience made me realise that I was good at mentoring and good at like working with young people. That led me to apply to the job that took me into.
Okay.
So it's kind of that's a whistle stop tour through what happened, but it was kind of that mentoring opportunity that I got, and then following up on that and pursuing that.
So like, so you're saying mentoring is what you took to, but how did your like writing style become what is? Because when I was listening to it and reading it, it sounds like a screenplay, pretty much. It's like word for word, scripted.
Yeah,
How did that come along? How did you get to that? You read a lot? Or...
Yeah, read a lot.
Okay.
I mean, the writing was always been how I express myself, like, and literature was always something that I was interested in. I read a lot. I was read to a lot as a child. I valued books. Listened to music threads all through all my work. Listened to a lot of music. Like grew up listening to a lot of music in the house, but then also just through my teenage years. So language, lyrics was always something I was interested in. And then I just kept a diary, practice. So the book is really the result of years of diaries. Yeah, diaries that's like my prayer to me.
Oh right, okay, that's like a daily thing.
What would you say was more your calling, journalism or being a youth worker?
Deep question.
Okay, deep now.
Difficult. Well, it's just difficult. I kind of honestly, this is a bit of a cop out answer, but I kind of see them as one and the same thing, honestly, because all of my youth work involves either writing about it or teaching writing now. Like it's the same. It's who I am. They're both who I am. I love educating, teaching, having conversations with people, using my writing and using writing skills. But so yeah, I kind of see them as one and the same thing. So I honestly couldn't separate them too much because I've just done both alongside each other for so long. I love both those two things. I guess I've been writing since before I was a mentor or a youth worker, so you could argue that maybe slightly, but very passionate about both.
What type of writing?
What writing?
Before you was a mentor.
So before I'd written anything about youth work or youth culture or whatever in terms of being a youth worker, because really my writing started taking off when I started writing about music and writing about like knife crime and youth violence that was happening in South London that I was seeing in my youth work. But before then, I'd been writing and pitching and trying to write stuff for blogs and whatever about music and about like a bit of politics and stuff like that. But in my diary, it would just be observations about life, thoughts about my identity, about British society, about anything.
So obviously, I had the Audible for the book, and as I was listening to it, as it goes through like some of the chapters, I felt like it would be like I might be wrong here, but it's like it will come through like a chapter with like following one of the young people in the book, like Dimitri themselves, and it'll come through with like a well researched chapter with like stats and facts. And I felt like I really appreciate that the book it wasn't just this is happening, and you know what, it's actually backed by a lot of research and information and statistics and stuff, which is which is cool. And I was wondering like how long did that take? How did that process come about?
That seems like a process. Like, to get the facts, like what you did and how you captured it, the research. Yeah. Ratings.
Like one of the facts you said is, I think it's 2004, 2005, Scotland had the most, was it knife crime?
Glasgow, that man were...
Wow.
Sorry, have you not seen that documentary about that?
Go on.
About the youths in Glasgow going mental with the knives and that.
Oh.
But no one talks about it, but they were going ham up there.
Well, that's just another city. That's just another city with like a lot of knife crimes, like London.
But I think I might be. This is just trying to remember stuff now. But I remember there's like I think I read something about it in a sense where like the Scottish government or the Glasgow MPs whatever put in like a program essentially because they found out that the reason why most of the people were turning to knife crime was the sense that the young people felt like they didn't have any options. So basically they put in like a program in place where sort of giving them like other ways out, so giving them things like that. And obviously we live in London at the moment, which is like a city we've got a knife crime problem, we can't say it hasn't. Do you think that the same system that was applied in Glasgow could work over here? I know it's just mad vague, but yeah.
So firstly, it was a mad process writing all those stats.
Sorry, it was like 5 questions at once,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah.
Sorry.
The rationale of having like those, there's always 2 styles in the book. There's 2 styles in the book, which is me telling a story that makes you care about this issue. If you're a reader that comes to this book and you don't really have any access to this issue apart from what you read in the headlines, the story of the characters and caring about the characters, that makes you care about it and makes you understand it from a more intimate perspective. And then the style of putting journalism and research and social theory and things like that in is to try and help you understand what's going on. So it's like an interplay between those 2 styles. So it was a lot of work and it took a lot of time and research and whatever. But also it was the result of my journalism. So I was writing journalism about this topic for 2-3 years before the book. So I had a lot of research gathered anyway. That's the first thing. Do I think that Glasgow, like, so one of the last chapters is themed public health approach towards solving violence, and that's like understanding it not as something to solve with punishment, but understanding it as something to solve with trying to improve social realities, the public health of it. So violence happens because public health is lacking basically, and that as a philosophy comes from America, comes from cities in America, but it was imported into the UK and Europe for the first time to try and solve the Glasgow problem. So what you were just talking about in terms of opportunities for young people in Glasgow, that was introduced to Glasgow to try and solve that as a problem. Do I think that can work in London? It is now being like put into place in London, but London's like, I don't know the specific stat, but I don't even think Glasgow's population is more than 1 million.
Yeah, you're saying that.
Of course.
And it's mostly, it's not very diverse, it's not very multicultural. There's not the same tensions going on with police. Like, so it's a completely different context and it's much smaller. So no, I don't think that the exact same thing can help London, because London's much bigger and there's much more going on. But I think as a principle, like, it's useful to look to, which is why I referred to it.
Okay, cool.
So what do you think would need to be implemented in London?
Well, I think what has been done, which is the kind of way the book concludes, is celebrating some of the elements, which is that there's a violence reduction unit in London now, which there are now 18 of them across the country in different cities, which is the idea of like having something central that tries to coordinate all the different parts of the city and different parts of society, so link up schools with youth clubs, etc. So I think that is a good principle to have it, but of course you've like reduced funding for all these different things over the last 10 years. It's difficult to do any of that stuff properly.
Especially like youth clubs and whatnot.
Yeah, I think youth clubs that's one of the biggest arguments in the book, is that youth clubs is like, that's kind of, one of the biggest arguments in the book is that youth clubs are essential, but they've been closed at a mad rate.
So Dimitri, I've got a question for you. Obviously, you guys met when he was in year 10.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know how long ago was that? Was that 5 years ago? Was it? I don't want to bear out man's age.
2016.
Okay.
Yeah, so a bit longer than that.
Okay, cool.
2017, yeah.
And can I ask, like, what's your journey been like? What are you, like, doing as of now since the book's been out, and what's your path you've been on?
Obviously, like in the book says, like, I'm a father now, innit? So,
Congratulations.
Yeah, like, obviously I do a lot of youth work, like with Ciaran and like separate from him as well. That's like my main thing. Yeah, like I've got a retail job there as well.
Okay.
I guess trying to make my bread and make a difference at the same time.
That's good. And how's it feel to be a father? Is it?
That's interesting. How does it feel? Like, it's rewarding, innit? Obviously, it comes with its challenges and that, but it's a rewarding experience.
Oh, cool. Well, congratulations again. And obviously, when you're growing up and that, did you like go to youth clubs and those kind of things?
Kind of mad. Like, obviously in school, I was even talking to Ciaran about this in the car actually. Yeah, like in school, like obviously you have to be social because you're there, innit? But I'm more of a like keep to myself kind of person, innit? Not out of school. Like there was youths on the block that I used to chill with and that, but more time was.
I hear that. And how did you like? I don't know. Did you ever get yourself in any kind of trouble, or how did you stay away from that kind of thing?
Like all youths, you get you get out to mischief, innit? So yeah, but like I feel like there's a point where most man, there aren't certain stresses around them. They kind of just grow out of it. But then obviously not everyone everyone's got a comfortable living conditions, innit?
Of course, of course.
Don't have certain. So for example, like Ciaran, even though like towards the start, like Ciaran wasn't directly saying, "Oh, like don't do this bad thing, don't do that bad thing." Just having like things in place so I know if I do something mad, I miss out on all of this kind of thing. It's important, innit? But man, I guess it's like having things that are valued, like knowing that I could lose them, that kind of kept man focused on.
Cool.
So I had a brief conversation with you just before we got into the building about where you came from and where you come from, Elephant and Castle. So can you tell us a bit more about how it was when you were growing up in Elephant and Castle?
When I was younger, like, what do you mean by how it was when I was younger?
How it was for what the circumstances were like, what school was like, what was it like growing up, you and your family?
When I was at school, it was more lively, I'd say, innit? Like, there was more youths about, like, on my block and that, because I have a neighbour in the States where, like, youths will come over.
Haygate, I guess Haygate was...
Yeah.
Haygate Face was still there then.
Like, even, it's weird, yeah, like, there are places that I used to chill in that don't exist anymore.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like there's memories that I have that are, like, they're locked away because I don't have the triggers. You know the ones you go to a certain place and you're like, oh, I remember I was here and I did this and that. So it's like, I feel like there's parts of my memory that's like away. But when I was a youth, I guess I'll just say it was more lively, innit? Now like the demographics different and like even like obviously Ciaran's captured some of it in the book, but like new people that come in and that move like it's their spot. Like,
Yeah.
their spot.
So
But yeah, I could talk over that. But anyway, it's just actually something just popped in my head again. Obviously Elephant and Castle. I remember like the shopping centre. And I remember, is that gone now?
Yeah.
Did they turn it into flats?
I don't even know what they're gonna do with that, but yes.
That's crazy, you know.
It's mad. Like one time I was
okay, it looks different now. You know, have you been to Elephant and Castle? It looks different.
one time I must have been coming from Catford, innit? Nearly missed my stop. I'm used to like I look out the window, like when I see the centre, I'm like, cool, I'm home, innit? I look out the window, I just see just bare rubble, and I was like, I don't even know where I am. Then see my near the thing, so I jumped off quick. I remember when I did, I was like, right.
That's crazy.
It's been there for a while. Ain't turned into nothing as of yet. I was gonna say, leading back to what you were saying, actually, and touching on what you were saying as far as missing valuable things, right? Spack, what's your take on it, both of you?
That's a straight question.
I mean, I say in the book that the context of the book where the SPAC comes in is where the character Carl is kind of simultaneously saved by them, but also obviously sees the corruption involved in their houses. So I guess I saw a balance of the support that he was given and the fact that he was pulled out of a very, very precarious situation, like a situation where I was like, as in he could have died any day, and he was pulled out of that situation and given a house there where he could just go to and from college without having to worry about that stuff. And I would, as I describe in the book, I went to visit him at that house and saw that he was no longer someone that was like, he was calm, he was breathing slowly, he was like, he was actually like a different person in 2 weeks living in this other house. But of course, I also have done my research and I've had enough conversations to know other stuff that was going on. And then just from speaking to the character of Carl, which is a fictional character, by the way, but based on a real person who wrote the book, he saw bad stuff there that was corrupt. So he was saved by it and he was grateful for that, but he was also like, there's people being taken advantage of. So that's my take on it.
You think?
I don't know. To be honest, I don't really know what they're up to now. Like, my only interaction really was either reading about it through researching it or through him. That's my kind of like.
You didn't see nothing.
Pastor Toby's finessing in Fendi right now. You know what I'm saying?
I mean, I saw enough in that, like, I know what he was telling me was true.
Okay. Do you reckon their take, or not their philosophy, like what they were trying to do was alright, but how they were going about it is a bit mad?
I guess you could say that, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't have too many strong opinions about it, and I don't want to sit here and be like, I know bare stuff about Spat Nation, because I really don't. But I know enough to know that there are those two sides. There's a lot of young people that went through their system and felt saved by it.
Uh-huh.
And the raw fact of removing someone from an environment where they're potentially going to die, that's potentially life-saving.
Yeah.
I think it was life-saving for Carl, genuinely.
I do generally think, like, for example, if you one of the big issues in terms of like knife crime and stuff like that, or if you've got like beef in the ends, the problem is sometimes you can't just move, you can't just relocate, and people know where you are, and it's that's when you might feel like you want to protect yourself a bit more, or you're living under constant pressure and it's stressing you out. So I guess that is a very good thing to be taken out of that environment where, like I said, you potentially could just lose your life and then being somewhere where you're kind of safe. But I think they do good things from what I've heard. But I think it's weird because I think they do the good things, but they're still exploiting people as well. At the same time, it's like it's a bit. It's what's the term for it? You know, glass half full kind of shit. But yeah, that's the kind of thing I think about SPAC. But yeah, I can ask you, Dimitri, as a young person, obviously, have you ever like had any interactions with SPAC?
No, what's mad, yeah. It's weird how the world works, innit? I was in Bagel with two of my guys, yeah, and then one of them, running in it. Obviously, my man's passed out in Bagel now, so
Raw.
obviously, luckily it weren't packed in it, so no one's clocked. Obviously, you sat down outside one bench outside Bagel. Two youths will come up to us now. Come this place, come that place, right there. Yeah. We'll see. Like, we'll bump into you again, whatever. And all of us are deep, like, oh, raw, my man never passed out. We wouldn't have had this conversation. Yeah. Maybe it's a sign. And then obviously, as time goes on, you start seeing certain things, and it's just like, even like there's people from my school that are like heavily involved with them, man.
Is it?
And then like, man, seeing things that they're getting accused of, and it's just,
oh wow.
Let me divert from this topic.
I'm gonna be honest, and I didn't really talking about that is a bit mad.
Yeah, let's move on. So
I was just interested, but yeah.
You see the way it's going, like now. So I want to ask another deep question. The way the government's rolling, inflation, we see what they're doing. I think every generation, we see when we go, you see this generation of kids, they're going mad. Like, you know, when the new generation start getting worse and worse. So my question is that with the way it's rolling, the way you see the world, or you see things in the UK right now, politics and all that. How do you see it being played out for young people in the future? Like, do you think it's going to be detrimental to them, the way things are going now?
Definitely, yeah.
In what sense, or like, how would you describe?
So many. I mean, I think there's several factors playing into it. I think COVID is still playing out in people's lives. You know, people have spent a lot of. I mean, everyone has spent time affected by that. But I think if you're young and you've been forced to navigate your teenage years or even younger in lockdown, supposed to have been learning in a social environment like a school, that's still affecting people. And the recovery of that being in a time where inflation's happening. And Brexit's happened, and the government is just a bunch of corrupt. Like, the amount of corruption taking place is on a weekly, daily basis. Yeah. I think if you're a young person growing up now, it's kind of hard to see how it's not that wouldn't be something that's destabilizing a bit, especially if you're already in a community that is suffering, or you're in a family that doesn't have stability or financial means to put food on the table every single day. And I think all of these different factors play a role, I think, and yeah, so I see it being very difficult. That being said, I guess I also have seen the resilience of young people, and I guess there's a lot of hope as well out there as well. It's not all doom and gloom, and that's something I try and show in the book, that like through the stories of a lot of the young people I have worked with, you can find such hope and amazing resilience in it as well. So yeah, the world is crazy. The world is like evolving in a way that seems like a negative thing, and I think if you're young and vulnerable, that's going to affect you. But I think there's also a lot of hope too. There has to be.
Yeah.
I was going to say, what sort of you feel like you gained any personal growth or insights during the journey of meeting these characters?
Yeah, loads. And again, I'm trying to be explicit with that about that in the book, about like my own personal growth. Like I make mistakes. I go into it quite naively, as in I go into the journey of being a youth worker, like a lot of young people who try and make an impact, go into situations thinking, you go into any situation with the assumptions of your life and your upbringing, and I've learned a lot about the point about humility I said earlier, and how much can be learned from different people. I think that so much growth, and also like trying to marry my passions of writing and youth work, trying to do that in a way that's like always respectful and always impactful. That's not an easy thing to do, and I've learned a lot along the way to do that, and the book has allowed me to basically have a platform to do it more now. Learned so much. There's literally like a whole. I'm eternally grateful for all the different mentors I've had, but also the people I've worked with that have taught me so much. So there are lots of them.
How about you, D?
My journey, like in general, throughout the book.
Like your personal growth throughout, meeting Ciaran.
I can't lie, like I owe Ciaran a lot, for like the opportunities and that he's put me onto, innit? Yeah, and even like in the process of writing the book, like revisiting like certain memories, like while I'm older and that, like allow me to look at them. So, from just writing the book alone, and then like from the opportunity come from that,
But do you ever think like how things could have gone had you not missed an appointment, or did not link up or whatnot?
I thought about it, innit, like what life would be.
Sounds touching.
It does.
You should write a book about that.
It does.
Yeah, like.
Are you I don't want to speak for you, but this guy he's a serious guy, and you'll get stuff done regardless of whether I was there. But like.
Yeah, but I feel like
thank you for the credit.
Like part of that to you, innit, car. Like you've had me doing stuff from when I was young, innit, so it's like second nature to me now.
Do you feel like for example, let's say when you're growing up on the ends and whatnot, and then do you feel like the ends is kind of like a bubble in a sense where like everyone's doing the same thing, everyone kind of like moves and thinks similarly, and then do you think maybe Ciaran came and exposed you to maybe certain things that you weren't aware of before, or would you have found that anyway? What do you reckon?
I'm curious, innit, so I feel like there's certain things I was like half aware of, innit, but being like in terms of like full exposure, I don't think I would have got that without Ciaran. Like obviously you talk like with the Mandem about certain things, like innit, you man are just talking in circles, but like able to go certain places, see certain things, you understand it, and then when you do have them convos with the Mandem, you can show them.
Yeah.
For that.
From like someone that's experienced something different.
Yeah.
We'll talk.
Where do you think things like I'm going back a bit? The same question I asked to Ciaran in terms of the way things are moving from your eyes, because you're young or younger. How do you see things going in London? I mean, do you even see yourself living here for the rest of your life?
I'm a pessimist. I'll be real. Like I want to make my bread here, and I'm trying to.
Yeah. Where you going? Where you ending up?
Huh?
Where you ending up? Canada. Okay.
Wow.
I want to go there. Have you been?
Canada, yeah. My uncle lives there, innit? Like,
Okay.
people are like, it's like what people think America is, innit? Like, I don't like that's not for me either, man. Them man are terrible. Canada, peaceful place.
I ain't gonna lie. My experience is gonna be different. Canada was rubbish for me. I'll tell you that much. It was cold. There was no one out.
No, but this is the thing as well. Like they have the hot summers and they have the proper cold.
Yeah.
Like you have everything, man. It's amazing.
You know about the festivals that I can?
Nah.
Okay. They're lit. April times and that, it gets lit. But see, like winter times, no one's around. Man.
Yeah, because it's cold. It's like London.
No, yeah, but like cold to them is cold. Like cold. There's a reason why there's Canada Gooses. It's cold.
Where in Canada did you guys both go?
I went to Toronto.
Okay.
I went Ontario, which is like the suburbs of.
Yeah. Well, if you know people, it's alright. I don't know, man. My experience is rubbish. I ain't gonna lie to you.
Now, sorry to divert back to the book again. Obviously, at the start of the book, it talks about how like there's the youth club. Hopefully, I don't say the guy's name wrong. And Tony works there. Yes. And was that like your first like role in youth work?
Yeah, I mean, it starts off with me volunteering there because
Yeah.
I moved into Brixton and I'm like, I moved in within like 100 metres away from a youth club. And this is part of the kind of message of the book, which I guess we haven't really talked about yet, which is arguably away from youth work. It's more just me as a person who's grown up in the suburbs, moving into the inner city, seeing an area changing a lot, being aware of that. And because I'd started working in schools, doing the job that I was doing, and I was living with a teacher who was working in a school, we were both like, look, we've moved into this area, we've got skills that could potentially be useful to local young people, and there's a youth club right there. Let's walk in the front door. And that's kind of how that started. So it started off as a voluntary thing, and we would go there once, twice a week in the evenings and just start chatting to people, and that turned into a regular discussion group. So that was my first, I guess, like youth service experience as someone that was, but I was really a community member. I was going in as a volunteer community member. So it was yeah, and it was like it's a baptism of fire because it's like it's a challenging place to work or volunteer or whatever. It's right in the middle of lots of different beefs, you know. So it was challenging, but it meant that I learned quickly and I had to like really adapt, and it gave me an insight that I don't think otherwise I would have had. A lot of people living in Brixton who have no idea about what's going on.
And it shows that you actually like really care, because I think at the start when you first started volunteering there, it was like a sense of mistrust from the people in the youth club and the kids and whatnot. You said sometimes you might think that you were trying to be like I don't know, like an undie or whatever, but that wasn't the case, obviously.
Yeah.
What can I ask you? What made you so resilient to keep going through that? That obviously it might be, some people might be like, oh, they don't want me here. Fuck it, I'm not going to do it anymore. Excuse my language.
Yeah. No, but you know what it was? is that the suspicion was only for a few seconds.
Okay.
For a few minutes. And it wasn't like... There was definitely challenges, but there were enough people in the room who backed it, basically. So it wasn't like everyone was like, get out. I had Tony, I had some of the staff members, and I had enough of the young people just cool with like just chatting to me. They didn't have a problem with that, and I felt like, okay, so I've had this conversation, those two are positive things, and it was just building that one by one. And then obviously you spend enough time somewhere, people understand your vibe. And I was very honest as well. This is the thing, like another thing about I guess in answer to your first question about my approach, honesty, like always so honest. Like I'm not gonna try and pretend like I'm not trying to pretend to be someone I'm not.
Yeah.
So I brought my whole self to the space. I did the same thing to Dimitri in his school, and I felt like students appreciated that. It wasn't like... So yeah, I think it was challenging, but it didn't feel overwhelming. So I did have resilience, but I think it was I owe it to like people being like personable and trusting of me. Like Tony, for example, he just backed it from day one. He was just like, oh, I like this guy. Like took me under his wing, and because he was the boss, like he kind of just kept chucking me into situations where I could learn. So.
And I'm just jumping around as well.
No, all good.
There's a part in the book where it talks about like the police and whatnot. Obviously, that's why the fact that you go into so much research in regards to like getting the statistics, information about how austerity. Thank you. Sorry, I was struggling there. Is really affecting like most of these public services, for example, and obviously the relationship that the community has with the police officers and things like that. And there's something that you just said a minute ago. Like obviously you were a community member and you went to volunteer because you thought you could help people in the community. But the book kind of mentions that you get a lot of people who join the police force and they're from up north or various places in life, and then they come to London where like I said, London's so multicultural and diverse. They're not used to it. So when they first land, they might find it a bit difficult or have biases towards people from London because they're never been around that, you might think, oh, see a group of black youths having banter and that, oh, they're moving aggressive. So what I'm trying to get here in a roundabout way is even teachers as well. I feel like I think it's very important that people do take their time to understand the community that they're working in, and then that way, like you said, you learn a lot from the community and you can give back as well. Because I do feel with mainly like police officers and teachers and stuff, they come in and they don't do that process. They don't have the, I don't know what you call it, but they don't have that, what you did basically, in sense of, I'm not saying you came out of the community, but I'm just saying people should take time to get people to know people in the community and how to interact with them and so forth. So I thought that's proper sick.
No, I completely agree with that, and I'm glad that you got that from what I did, because that's what I tried to do. You know, there's a lot of people doing good work, and there's a lot of people become teachers, and I'm sure police officers with well-meaning intentions and whatever, but I think it's just how you treat people first and foremost, and so I write about this in the book. Like, I come from a family. My dad's a doctor and my mum's a nurse, so it's like ever since I can remember, daily conversation at the dinner table or whatever, just in my home, was like patient this, patient that, patient that, patient. We belonged to a community. We couldn't step out my front door without one of my dad's patients recognising me on the street.
Oh, wow.
So it was like, that's what I grew up around. So it was just like I tried to bring that sense. I didn't even consciously do it. I just brought that sense of like connection when I moved to Brixton, and I think a lot of people lack that humility again, like the willingness to try and get to know people. They just make their like assumptions about things. So, but you know, those jobs are hard too. So I don't want to pass too much judgment about them, but they're hard.
Without like dissing up the police and that, yeah. But I'm gonna do it anyway. But
you should do it.
You see,
right now I'm doing so much stuff for the police, so you should, yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong, like you said, they do, it's a hard job, and you know, I guess maybe being exposed to, like, the book talks about the police officer, obviously he's seen stabbings, little dead 4-year-olds.
Yeah.
You're exposed to a lot of stuff, but some of them are just like, I don't know, like you said, it's about humility. I feel like a lot of them sometimes lack it. I don't know whether they dehumanize people when they have interactions with them, or, and then some of them are just,
It's the power that gets to them.
What's your personal, what's your thoughts, Dimitri? Let's hear from you.
I think like power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely, innit? So like, right, if you give, like, even in my head I was just thinking like, right, if you give the power to a man to say like you can throw hands on anyone and they can't do anything mad, then they're gonna move mad, innit? That's what police are like. Like, they're the only people really that can hands on someone, especially like if you come up to someone, the first thing you start doing is grabbing them up and trying to put them on the floor. Like, of course they're gonna bug out. And then when they bug out, then you're allowed to do something mad to them, then like, what can we really do in that? So I feel like that, like, just the power that they have and the people that are given that power in it, I feel like wrong.
You ever had a good experience with police though?
Good one.
Any good experiences, let's say?
I had one, you know, and it was so random, yeah. I was on my block in it, and two of them in a car in it, and my expectation was, they're gonna hop out and just start talking nonsense in it. I said, like, doing like hearing it, like I live here. I can't remember what he said after that, but none of them hopped out and they just said a little 1-2 words, and then he must have said something about crime in the area. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about, and he's like he started laughing. He's like, you know what I'm talking about? I was like, yeah, whatever. And he's like, like, stay safe and that, and then he just cut. But like the fact that he just didn't hop out and start talking shit to me, I rated it. Cause every other experience I have with a Fed, yeah, just come up and just start talking rubbish to me. Like, even the other day, gone out, yeah, TSGs and that, and fam, there's this one black Fed, yeah.
oh my god.
I swear, this guy,
is he the worst?
I hate him. He was one of the first jakes to ever search me as well, yeah. As a youth, I was underneath my block in it, and I found out because I live on the ground floor in it. So I'm under my house. I was like, oh right, I got like Wi-Fi in it. So I'm underneath my block on my phone, getting excited like, I've got Wi-Fi outside. Bro, this is as well, yeah. Fam, the way these lot approached me, I thought I was gonna get GA'd, fam. So I was like, I put my phone away. I was like, I'm more time gonna get wrapped, but I'm fighting all three of these man because they're undies in it. Bro, one of them has jumped from like under a railing. The other one, I don't even know where he came from. And then the black one, I'm sure my man even hopped the fence to come and get him.
Oh my
They
god.
all surrounding me and that, yeah. I'm just like, rah. And then they're there's people selling drugs in the area, red tete. Like, I didn't even know you lot was feds, but I thought your man was just gonna start smashing me up and that.
Feds are sneaky butters with too much power, man. They're moving mental.
But yeah, there's that one black fed, and then there was a time I was on my scooter. I must have, obviously, you know, like originally on scooters and like, they like to move mad, I seen them up the road, so I spun my scooter, gone up like E Street. Obviously, I don't know how they clocked me. They clocked me, flown up the road, flown up E Street, and then they nearly licked down one girl trying to chase me and that.
Right.
So obviously they stopped me, come off and that. The girl's dad's comes like, oh, nearly ran over my daughter. And then the same black fella's like, oh, well, she shouldn't have been in the road. And I was like,
Wow.
bruv, the little girl, like, why are you moving, man? And you're coming for me for a scooter, bro. Like, the scooter's not gonna kill no one. But anyway, yeah, what I was saying before with the TSGs, yeah, my man, he was pre me. He was the only one. He was the only one that was out of the van, innit? So he was pre me. Gone past my block twice. Then I've gone under it and gone like I was gonna go and meet my boy in it. As I'm on the phone to him now, same one that was pre me. He's come up. He's like, "Oh, what you doing in the area? Like I live here." My man's telling me there's section 60 and I could be a gang member. Right? I was like,
What?
like you're stopping me from walking. He's like, no, I'm not. I was like, you are, but like just do your thing. And he's like, oh, do you want me to explain it to you again? I was like, just bro, just still you need to do it. But yeah, drunk on power still.
Because we always talk about how we need more diversity in the police force, which I agree with. Don't get me wrong. I've met some nah. Anyway, but you, like obviously people from various backgrounds. There's that Instagram, you know that Snapchat police officer. I think he's from like Camden. He's always like, I don't know. He was popular on social media, but you can tell he's from like London, and he's always got a little bit of banter with the people and so forth. So I think that kind of helps as well. But then, like you're saying, in terms of getting diversity in the police force, do you think that helps, or do you reckon it just still power tripping anyway? Because you said you've got a black officer moving more, man.
If they come with you, like bro, if you actually just talk to me normally, I'll move so calm with you. But if you just hop out and start trying to grab me up and that, especially like undies and that, bro. If I now because they have the cameras and that, like I can clock you instantly. Before, bro, if a random man grabs me,
that's terrifying.
bro. Do you get it? Like I'm just gonna think you're a normal person. I'm not gonna. Do you get it? So yeah, just come with humility. Talk to people normally. Cause most man will move calmly. Obviously, what you're doing is jarring, but you're fed in it. Like do what you have to do, but don't move mad about it.
Yeah,
Same thing with teachers as well. Like power.
Go into it.
Names in it. There was a teacher in my school. She used to be a subject teacher, innit? When she was a subject teacher, she was a victim.
Okay.
On sixth form now, got a little promotion, started moving mad. But in my head, I'm like, bro, you're still this victim teacher. So she should be there shouting at people like, bro, like, why you listening to this woman, fam? Like, what's going on here? But because she's got more power in the school now, she just started just wilding out, moving mad. So, well, it's a big thing. I feel like if there's anyone that has power, it just makes them bug out, like. But I feel like that's just a human thing.
I mean, like in the Spider-Man film, when Uncle Ben says, "With great power comes great responsibility," don't you think just because you have power, they should I don't know, put them through some kind of like psychological training to make sure that they recognize I understand people are humans as well. Not every day you can be perfect, but don't you think I don't know if they do it already, but I feel like they should have some kind of training where they know, yes, I've got the power position here, but not to abuse it, because there's a difference between having power and abusing your power. And it's not okay just because you have a badge. It's not okay for you just to go around and, like you said, man's jumping over fences because you're using the Wi-Fi on your block. That's yeah. That kind of stuff is not okay. Sorry, I've been talking a lot, but yeah.
Yeah, no, power's mad. Still, I've had incidents like that as well back in the day. Still,
Would you be a Fed?
I say that because no, I wouldn't be a Fed. I might be in the army, but I wouldn't be a Fed.
I wouldn't even do that.
But there ain't gonna be no wars anytime soon.
We're in one right now.
No, we're not. We might be backing or supporting. We're not actually in a war though. So I don't know. I think anything government related, I've just got a bad stigma with it, and I think that's based off of certain researches and history. So anything government related when it comes to institutions, whether that's policing, army, and all of that, I'm just negative about it. I never see it as doing anything positive for the common man, basically. So I'm just like, and it's probably coming from the same background where it's like, you've been treated a certain manner, so you've already got a bad stigma. and then you read up about it, you read about the history about it, and how certain governments have done such and such to people, and you just feel like, are they ever for us? You know what I mean? But yeah, that's just my take on it. I'll never really want to be a police officer.
I mean,
Man, like, just as an institution, I disapprove of them. Innit? Laws that the government has, I disapprove of. You're to me, it's just like you're enforcing things I don't believe in. So just like, why do you exist? So,
I mean, there's goods and bads, though. Yeah, no, I'm saying there's just goods and bads.
Yeah, cool. I wanted to just briefly touch on drill music, because you obviously touch on it in a book, and arguably drill started in South London, namely I think that Brixton area. So you write about it. On the one hand, it's elevated. It's led to there being stars in the game. It's elevated careers. But on the other hand, it promotes what it promotes.
Yeah.
What's your take on it now, in general?
So now, stuff's evolving in real time, I think, and I'm the work I'm doing now is arguably even more at the center of this debate than it was when I wrote the book, because it's crazy what's happening now, because they're using a lot of the music in court and as evidence, and I'm fighting that, systematically fighting it, and so I'm seeing even darker, more crazy lengths that the powers that be will go to try and basically criminalize young black men. Like that's using music. And so I wrote that balance you gave of like the two sides of the debate. I still think that those two sides probably have always existed since the beginning of hip hop. I just think we've got social media in the mix now, and I think fundamentally I still believe in the power of freedom of expression. I think that should be protected for young people, but I just think that the Pandora's box of social media has been opened. And for me, the debate always goes back to social media. If you teach young people to be safe on social media, they won't make music that makes them unsafe. But I think that the music ends up coming from that technology change. But yeah, now I'm seeing the full extent of how they're using it in court, which is crazy.
As a devil's advocate, yeah.
Yeah.
So you think that music shouldn't be used in court?
No.
Okay. So let's say I'm the judge and the lawyers and the prosecutors.
Yeah.
And we've got so and so in the thing, and he's got a track out there about how you put so and so in a spliff, or you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, because a lot of it is, I don't know if it's true or not. I can't tell you if it's true or not, because obviously music is fiction. But can you not see, like, for example, let's say I'm the victim's parent or something like that.
Yeah.
And then the community sometimes knows who did what, and obviously the trial's happening, and then they're saying they can't use man's evidence of the music video he made, but he's in the video talking mad, or she talking madness.
Yeah.
What do you think? Like,
if you're trying to convict, especially if you're gonna talk about something as serious as murder, then there's other evidence. I'd be like, he said in a song and this word means that. Like, it's not the same. It's not like you've got a voice note of me saying, I killed person X. Even the example you saying, you put them in a spliff, like, obviously we know what it means, innit? But it's not like, if you take that literally, it mean nothing.
of course, yeah.
So I feel like because with music that happens, like there's metaphors and similes and all these things there, you can't prescribe like your own meaning to it. And if I'm an artist and I say, it doesn't mean that, you actually can't argue me because objective, do you get it?
I hear that.
And even what you were saying before about like you said that it promotes it. Me personally, I don't think it does. Yeah, especially drill. Like if you listen to like drill artists and like the way none of them describe their life. Like obviously, there's man that will say that it's exciting and it's thrilling, but I think obviously you can say that's kind of positive, but most man when they talk about it, the way they describe their life is not something pretty or something to be desired after. No one is always in the drill chat saying, come and join my gang, it's nice. Like no one ever says that. You get it. They always talk about their life being grim and the mad things that happen. So I don't think that's like promoting it. It's just, they're saying it how it is, and it's a bit of truth. If that appeals to you, then obviously that's mad. But I don't think it's something that promotes it.
And like you said, obviously it's subjective and whatnot. Let's say, like I said, if I put someone in a spliff, you can say, literally, that means nothing, really and truly. But then,
I think there are more. I could give you more close to the mark examples from real cases where they're using it. They're trying to use it as evidence, and I would still argue that that's not. So, for example, like that put someone in a spliff. Like that's just.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
That's just metaphor. If there's bars where people are being like talking about a location. They've recorded it days after an incident. Like there's loads of stuff to suggest that piece of music refers to this incident, but there's no other evidence.
Ooh,
and
yeah.
You can't do that. And what they are doing is they're trying to rely on that type of evidence to get it over the line. And that's what I'm saying. That's where it becomes a problem, because if you allow these examples to slip through the net, even if you're, I'm coming at this from the perspective of someone that Jamar, in the book, loses his older brother. That trial is still not resolved. I'm still tight with his family, very tight with his family. I'm still, on some level, advocating for the people to be brought to justice. So I am coming at this from a perspective of, like, I understand the hurt. And I think I'm not trying to excuse the fact that these bars offend people. But in the justice system, the logical extent of allowing these lyrics to be used as evidence is that they will use it like that. They'll use it with, like, they are trying to do it. They're trying to slap charges onto people based on the fact that they have rapped about an area or a particular set of incidents.
That's insane.
But without any forensic evidence. And they are doing that. I've seen it. I'm seeing it now. Yeah, so that's what's dangerous about it.
Yeah, that's messed up.
I just thought my view was like, they've got so-and-so, let's say on CCTV doing so-and-so, and then next thing you know, it's a song drop. But if it's just a case where, like, they're just using the song lyrics, as a main evidence, that's
what I mean.
That's
what I mean. And I think in instances where you've got CCTV, you've got DNA, and then they've also rapped about it, I don't have a problem with it.
Okay, yeah.
That makes sense.
Like, but then at that point, do you even need the lyric?
Yeah, true.
You've got the evidence. So I think the police and the system has been quick to jump at social media as an opportunity to get more evidence. But they haven't really stopped to think about how legitimate that evidence actually is. And I think that there are repercussions. It widens the criminal net. It basically sends more young people to prison without evidence that is convincing. And I think that's a dangerous thing. I don't think that's how you solve it.
One of our sessions, because we spoke about this, innit? I asked the young people, like a draw, we can talk about explicit things sometimes. Suppose I drew a picture of or something, like no one's gonna take that to court, do you get it? But the music still counts as art. So that's where I see the problem. Like Ciaran said anyway. Like, bro, if there's evidence to convict, so it is, isn't it? But you can't, if it's at that point, you don't need the lyrics, and if it's only the lyrics, you don't need the lyrics in it, it's art.
Oh, you're saying what, if you drew like a murder, they can't use that as evidence?
Like, I don't think they would. And if someone did do that, then people would be like, bro, like, it's a picture, do you get it? So it's the same attitude, not prescribed to music. Sitting there both art.
No, I get it.
But all of this being said, the defense of music is still with the caveat and with the balance of, like, I understand that it's not good that people are, like, this music is not, in a lot of instances, a healthy thing for society. But I think on balance, it's important to let young people say their truth. I just don't think, I think social media is just crazy.
Yeah.
And the technology is, people are using technology in ways that are not. I think there should be I think you should have like a driving license for media.
No, I think you're right. Like you said it's not just for the music. You said it's the social media stuff as well. So I know there's like these weird little blog pages and these like Snapchat things that post.
Yeah, exactly.
Repost the badnesses, and I say they're provoking each other. They post the provocation that's essentially like, so and so said this,
Yeah.
And obviously I'm like 31 now, so I'm not really as clued up as what's really happening in it.
Yeah.
But as someone like yourself who's like a lot younger, what do you think about these like weird little social media stuff?
Yeah, because you've grown up in it. You're like not part of it, but you're.
I mean, two minds of it, innit? Car. I don't like, even with the music as well. Like, in my head, like, bro, if you like delete all social media and like ban people from make it impossible for people to make drill music, the beef that exists would still exist.
Thanks.
Yeah, so it's like, obviously, like, I don't know, like, obviously, I can't say it don't make it worse, because, like, obviously, like, people, if you embarrass someone, it's like, oh, I want to do something quickly because everyone's saying red, but it's like, bro, like, if these people saw each other, regardless of whether or not someone's chatting shit online or what, something would have happened, you get it? I feel like it's more, it makes things happen, like, more rapidly, but I don't think it doesn't cause anything that wasn't happening before.
Of course, yeah. I mean, there's crime before hip hop, even. Do you know what I mean? People were doing murders when the R&B music was like the main thing or whatever, soul music. So I think trying to link in like crime and music is a bit of a lazy narrative, really and truly, because yeah, like you said, it will keep happening either way.
I think it just normalizes it because you just see it so often now. So it's like a norm.
I agree with that. I think it is that.
Like it's a norm, like and that kind of not delays, but you know, because you see when you see something once, you kind of you want to do something about it. But when it's so consistent, it's like the violence has to be drastic for you to be
Yeah,
like,
I was actually
okay,
gonna say something about that store. Like, it makes man do things that are more extreme, innit?
yeah,
Like, you know, everyone's blowing up. Everyone's like, I'll take that to the next step. So man, I'm actually scared of me. Man,
yeah, it's mad. Mad.
It's not an easy topic.
Yeah.
But it's important, and it is. Yeah, and I think it's for me, this whole debate cuts right through to what most human beings are dealing with at the moment, which is how do we navigate the internet and social media? Like, how do we use this stuff in a positive way and not be dangerous with it? And I think the reason I said the driving license thing is I think you need to be able to use these technologies safely. You wouldn't just stick a 10-year-old in a car and tell them go and drive on the roads because they don't know how to use the car properly.
Yeah.
You know, I think there's a maturity level that you need to be able to use these things, and until we realise that and actually try and like enforce that, I think the social media is going to continue to be used by young people in a reckless way, and then the music's just going to reflect that.
So overall, you think the internet is or social media, let's say, is worsening things, making things worse?
No, because it's also solving lots of problems. You know, so many of the connections and the problem-solving conversations and the like staying in contact with certain people. I couldn't have done it without social media. People wouldn't have been able to discover my work without social media. That's just me talking about me. You know, people that have. So I think there's a lot of positives as well. You know, there's a lot of community that can be developed on there. There's a lot of young people probably feeling like they belong and like they're safer because even though they haven't left their bedroom, they feel like their views are being accounted for on the other side of the world because they're talking to someone about them. You know, social media allows for that connection. So I think there's a lot of positives as well. But certainly the negatives like are pretty in your face when we're talking about music and, you know, London. And so I think it's a fence-sitting response, but I think it's up and down basically, both sides.
It desensitizes you. That would be one of the negatives, I'd say.
Yeah, without a doubt. Definitely.
In all angles, I guess. But like, you know, not just like violence-wise and everything, like, you know, sexualizing things or everything, just like a touch of a button, you could just mind's blown.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
We need to just wrap up in a bit, but I just want to ask one question before that the boys ask their final question. So you have a lot of content to talk about. Wicked book. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. If I was to ask you what you want the public or what you want the readers to take the most from it, if there was my bad. If there was particular points in a book or points from the book that you want the reader to learn from them or take, you know where I'm going with this question. The most, what would they be? What would it be?
I think it depends on who the reader is, and I've said this a few times when I've been talking about the book. And when I was writing it, I had like two kind of obviously there's a whole continuum of people that are going to read it, but there's two broad camps that I kind of wrote it for. And one camp is the young people that feel represented by the experiences that are captured in the book. I hope it gives them strength and it makes them feel like they're seen, and through like the fact that I collaboratively wrote it with Jamar, Dimitri, and Carl, I hope that like other young people that can relate to their experiences like see that as a humanizing process. It's not just that they're not just 3 teenage boys growing up into men in London who have followed like newspaper headline expectations about what you do. It's actually a really like detailed process of telling their story as a really hopeful thing, and I hope that makes people feel positive and represented and inspires more things like that. And then the other audience is people that have no connection to this culture, maybe people that don't live in London, or people that do live in London that segregate themselves in their own community and don't engage with a lot of these issues, or only read about it in the Evening Standard when they travel home from work in the evening. And I hope for them it sparks them to just stop and think about these issues more, you know, on a if it can make them be more empathetic towards people, if it can make them just move around society in a way that like is a bit more forgiving and understanding of people's circumstances, then that's also, I hope they'll take that away from it. So it's like, for me, that's kind of what the purpose of the story was, is to make readers feel something. There's obviously a lot of information in it, so it tries to teach stuff, but it's like, it's those two camps trying to make people feel those things. So, yeah. I don't know whether that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Thank you.
I was going to say one more thing, a bit random, but towards the end of the book, you talk about how you've been basically writing this whole book in a male's perspective.
Yeah.
And how you started an article, was it on GQ?
Yeah, I wrote one, yeah.
Yeah, and it came from a female's perspective.
Yeah.
How do you feel the whole knife crime and all that affects women? And what do you reckon, because you were speaking about how women can get involved and such, and how much it affects them.
Good question.
Could you talk about that?
Yeah, good question.
Yeah. So the first thing to say is that I'm not an expert on this side of things, so I don't want to like act like I am. But the things I do know, based on being in relative proximity to these issues and talking to other youth workers who do specialise in it, which includes the part in the book where I speak to Ebby, her name is.
Is that from Milk and Honey?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Podcast, yeah.
So I think that there's a lot to be said, but one of the main things that came out of that conversation, which I document in the book, which is that all of the things we've been talking about are about young men doing stuff to each other, right? In terms of the violence about. But every single time an incident like that happens, there is a whole team of women, often whose voices and whose experiences are never even spoken about, who have to mobilise around those incidents. And in many ways, they are therefore the experts about how to solve this problem. I think probably a lot of the solutions do come from women, and that is not necessarily captured in policy, and those women are not supported in policy as well. And that could be, whether you're talking about single mothers who are losing children, or the girlfriends or friends or sisters of people who are living this life and being affected by it. Like, there's a whole spectrum of experiences there, I think, that is not captured by storytelling, by the news, by again, policy. I think a lot of the way that families and stuff are helped through these things is from a very male perspective. So I just think that there's a lot of stuff that women shoulder in life in general that they're not really like given their kudos for. So that's one thing, but there's so many areas of this, that I know that I wouldn't be able to capture. But
so do you feel like it's a thing where we gotta support them, certain like communities, or they've got to, like, how do we help each other? That thing.
I guess my contribution was writing, like, I think this is a bit of a there's a gendered element to this whole conversation, which I think is important for men to have, like, this conversation. But even writing the book was deliberately like, the work I do resonates more with young men, and that's what I've specialised in, and therefore that's kind of the story I've told. But I think my contribution would be was to write that part of the chapter, and to write that article. It's to still try and bear in mind that there is another perspective and that there is a female experience involved in all of this. That was my way of doing it. I guess everyone has their own like approach to that, but yeah, of course, supporting and dialogue and opening up conversations with young women who are also in proximity to this stuff. A lot of young women are, you know, are the people carrying stuff or being forced to do stuff, taken advantage of. Male violence is obviously affecting men because a lot of young men kill each other and hurt each other, but we don't need to even it's stating the obvious to say that women bear the brunt of male violence. Anyone, right? So and this is a problem whether you're talking about young people in London or anywhere in the world right now. Social media is a whole conversation to be had about that. Andrew Tate over the last couple of weeks has been that's happened with him, and I think that the way that women suffer as a result of male violence is a problem that we need to definitely talk about.
Yeah, we was actually gonna have you heard of that incident that happened with Chris Carver?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's his sister. She was going to actually come in, but obviously that happened right when we was going to book that in.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, we was going to have a dialogue, but obviously she went through that. But
as in you were going to speak to her before that?
Yeah, she's an author. She's an author as well. Yeah, so she wrote a book, but then that happened.
Yeah.
And then that was like last year, like late last year, and then that happened. Then obviously we're still in contact, sort that out.
Wow, that would be very powerful to get her on.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if she's in a place to do that.
Yeah, that should be a good dialogue. But yeah.
I feel like whenever I answer this question, I feel, it's like I can't. It's good that you asked it because I always feel like it's a reminder to do more work on it.
Just, I need to read up on the All City. I haven't got around to that. The All City articles.
Well, my newsletter.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. That's
where
where I'm putting all my writing from now on. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, that's good, bro. Have you got any other links that we can talk about, promote?
The main thing is All City, my newsletter and All City.
Okay.
So Ciaran Thapar, my name, .substack.com. It's now like I'm writing weekly stories every Thursday about youth culture.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's where you can find all my writing now. Trying to pull away from pitching to papers and stuff because I need to just write on my own terms basically. So
We'll soon get that bio from Dimitri, that film. You know what I'm saying? We'll get your film soon coming out soon, yeah.
Loaded, man. You don't
Yeah.
this guy's got lots of stuff.
What are you working on?
even.
You working on anything?
I can't shed all that on that at the moment.
Say no more.
Do you have any like social media stuff you want to like promote so people can find you when you do release your stuff, or is it once it's done sort of thing?
I'm not really on the socials like that. I'm sure, like rubbish. Like fam, Twitter. Every time I go on Twitter, my blood starts boiling. Not smart.
That's why I don't have one. I can't. We got the Mandem Read one though. That needs to get more active. Yeah. That's not one. Yeah.
You know what? I thoroughly enjoyed the book. I think the book was very well written. I'm guessing if people want to buy the book, they can find it on most like mainstream places like Amazon, Waterstones, and
Yeah, right.
Okay, cool. And then, have you written any other books?
This is my only book.
And is more books coming?
Yeah, there's another book coming.
Oh, fantastic, man.
You was talking about it earlier. You saying you was working on something.
I don't know whether I mentioned this one. It's kind of a separate. So it's a similar style book, but it's a very different topic. It's more about like my family history and my dad's Punjabi, and so it's about like the history of partition and influence in my family.
So you're Punjabi and
my mum's white British, so
okay.
Irish English. So yeah.
I thought you were just white. You said it in the book, innit? You was like, you must describe saying, I come into this youth club and I'm just this white guy or something like this.
I wouldn't have said that, but
No, he didn't say that. No, he didn't say that. Look at his surname, bro.
Along the lines.
as in, well, I mean, they might have looked like, they might have thought that I was. I don't think they did. I don't think most people didn't. Most people, as in, I don't know. I probably wouldn't have said it like that. But
Definitely not white. But listen,
Well done,
yeah. I think that to speak on the guy's behalf, great book. Dimitri had a nice little feature as well. So thank you.
Please.
And any upcoming publication from yourself, Ciaran,
Thank you.
we'd love to have you on it again.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys.
Yeah, cool.
Definitely, it's a pleasure.
Really appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
And thanks for
Yeah.
reading it. Like, it's truly, anyone that reads the book has a place in my heart. So thank you.
That's a
Yeah.
proper book as well. Like when I first got into it, I was like, wow.
Deep
No.
info, yeah. And hella like the way, that's what I'm saying, the way you write it sounds like a screenplay. Like you ever thinking of making movies out of?
I'd love to, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd love to, definitely.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah. I wrote it in a way that that was the aim, but it's like there's just so much
Okay.
stuff to do. It's just
Okay.
You sound like you look like you're cooking up something.
All right.
Always cooking. That's me.
Sorry, just before we wrap this up, I just want to ask, can you like talk me through what this is?
So, this
I wanna
is
hear
an
him say it.
anthology.
Oh.
A pattern project. Obviously, myself and Ciaran, we go into schools, work with young men, talk to them about philosophy, so things and how they apply to them.
Show them a
Music,
copy.
or I don't know if these young men would hold
No,
their
it's all
pictures
good.
on the
It's all
internet.
good.
Oh, okay.
Oh, right.
But obviously, and at the end of it, we get them to like write stuff, obviously ourselves included. So we write whether it's poems, bars, stories, little doodles, anything in it. Some of the stuff on the inside. I can show the one that's got my face on it, because you don't know what I look like. Where is it?
Where can we find it? You say you go and give them out.
Nah, these are for the schools, innit? I don't
Alright.
know if Ciaran will start trying to sell them or something, but yeah.
With the model post.
Not even, man, not even.
Oh, man.
Yeah, it's good. It's basically using the book as a resource in schools, so that's the idea.
Okay.
So with young people reading bits of it, chatting about it, and getting them to write stuff.
Oh,
So
right.
that's what
Okay.
that is.
Honestly. Boy, wrap it up.
Yeah, done. Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah, man. That's a wrap. It's a pleasure.
Cheers, guys.
It's a pleasure. Guys.
Thank you. Boom.
Definitely.